Hello everyone and welcome. I'm excited to kick off our presentation today. We'll be exploring Mega Goal 1.2, focusing on Unit 10, titled I Wonder What Happened. We'll be delving into some interesting grammar topics related to this theme. Today, I'll give you an overview of what we'll cover, including key concepts and practical examples. So, let's get started and enjoy the learning journey together. Let's look at an example to understand the past perfect tense better. Imagine it's morning, and I wake up. Before I even got out of bed, my mother had already prepared breakfast for me. This shows that her action of preparing breakfast happened before I woke up. The key idea here is that the past perfect tense is used to talk about an action that occurred earlier in the past, before another past event. It helps us clarify the sequence of events clearly. So, whenever we want to emphasize that something happened first, we use the past perfect tense. It's a useful tool for telling stories or explaining past situations with a clear timeline. Let's take a closer look at the time words. These are words like when, before, after, because, and by the time. They are crucial because they help us understand the timing and sequence of events in a sentence. For example, when I woke up, my mother had already prepared breakfast for me. Notice how the action of the mother preparing breakfast happened before I woke up. This is where the time words come into play, showing us the relationship between the two actions. Now, in this sentence, there are two verbs. The first is woke up, which is in the past simple tense. The second is had prepared, which is in the past perfect tense. The past perfect is used to show that one action was completed before another action in the past. Understanding these key points is important because it helps us tell clear, chronological stories in English. When we use time words correctly along with the right verb tenses, our meaning becomes much more precise and natural. This is a fundamental part of mastering English grammar and improving our overall communication. All right, let's take a closer look at this example. He had washed the car. Now, this sentence uses the past perfect tense, which is formed with the auxiliary verb had plus the past participle of the main verb, in this case, washed. The key point here is that had indicates that the action was completed before some other past event. Notice how the structure is quite straightforward. Subject plus, had plus past participle. This structure is essential because it helps us express actions that happened before another past action. Do you still remember the overall structure? It's important because mastering this will allow you to talk about sequences of past events clearly and accurately. So, to recap, the past perfect is formed with had plus the past participle, and it's used to show that one action was completed before another past action. Keep this in mind as we move forward. It's a fundamental part of mastering past tense narration. All right, now let's look at how we form the negative in the past perfect tense. The key point here is the word not. When we want to make a sentence negative, we simply add not after had. So, for example, instead of saying, he had washed the car, we say, he had not washed the car. Notice how not is placed after had to create the negative form. This is a common structure in English for expressing actions that did not happen before a certain point in the past. And remember, the verb that follows, had, is always in the past participle form. So this structure helps us clearly communicate what didn't occur in the past. Do you still remember this structure? It's an important part of mastering past perfect tense, especially when we're discussing negative actions or events. All right, let's take a closer look at this slide. So here we have a question form which is used in the past perfect tense. The question we're looking at is, had he washed the car? Now notice the structure. It starts with had, which is the auxiliary verb, followed by the subject, in this case he, and then the past participle, washed. This structure is key when forming questions in the past perfect tense. And do you still remember the overall structure? It's quite straightforward once you get the hang of it. Auxiliary, had, then the subject, and then the past participle. This form helps us ask about actions that were completed before another past action or point in time. Understanding this structure is essential because it allows us to accurately form questions about past events, which is a common need in both speaking and writing. So, whenever you're trying to inquire about whether an action was completed before something else in the past, this is the form you want to use. Keep practicing, and it will become second nature. Now let's look at some of the key modal verbs we use to express possibility and necessity. First, we have may and might, which are often interchangeable when talking about possibilities. For example, it may rain today, or it might rain today. They both suggest that something is possible but not certain. Next, we have can't and couldn't, which are used to express impossibility or something that we are unable to do. For instance, I can't attend the meeting means I'm unable to go, and he couldn't finish the project on time indicates a lack of ability or opportunity. Then there's must, which is used to express strong necessity or obligation. For example, you must submit the report by tomorrow emphasizes that it's a requirement. It can also indicate a strong logical conclusion, like he must be tired after the long trip. These modals are essential because they help us communicate different degrees of certainty, ability, or obligation, which ties into our overall theme of effective communication and clarity in language. Understanding how to use may, might, can't, couldn't, and must correctly allows us to express ourselves more precisely and confidently. Let's take a closer look at how we use these expressions to talk about the past and present possibilities. When we talk about the past, we often use must have been, might have been, or couldn't have been to speculate or infer what might have happened. For example, if we see a broken window, we might say, it must have been the wind, suggesting a high certainty, or it might have been someone else, indicating a possibility but less certainty. And if we're sure something didn't happen, we say, it couldn't have been him, ruling out a possibility. Moving to the present, we use must, might, and can't to express our current beliefs or guesses about situations. For instance, if I hear a noise outside, I might say, it must be the delivery person, assuming it's likely. Or it might be a stray cat, indicating uncertainty. And if I'm convinced it's not something, I say, it can't be serious, dismissing a possibility. The key point here is that these expressions help us communicate our degree of certainty or doubt about past events or current situations. They connect to the overall theme of understanding and expressing uncertainty in different contexts, which is essential for effective communication. Today, I want to focus on the structure of a simple sentence in the present tense, specifically when expressing possibility or intention. For example, take the sentence, he might go to the work. Here, might is the modal verb indicating possibility. The subject is he, and go is the base form of the verb. It's important to notice that when we use modal verbs like might, can, or must, they come before the main verb, which stays in its base form. This structure is essential because it helps us clearly communicate possibility, ability, obligation, or permission. In this particular example, he might go to the work. We're talking about a potential situation in the present. The structure is affirmative, meaning we're stating it as a possibility rather than a question or negative. Understanding this structure is fundamental because it forms the basis for more complex sentences and helps us express ourselves accurately in various contexts. Remember, the key points are the modal verb at the beginning, followed by the subject, and then the base form of the verb. This consistent pattern is what makes our sentences clear and grammatically correct. Now let's look at how we form the negative in the present tense. When we want to say that someone might not do something, we use the structure, he might not go to work, for example. The key here is that we're using the modal verb might followed by not to make it negative. The base form of the main verb, in this case go, stays the same. So the structure is subject modal verb might, then not, and then the base form of the verb. This allows us to express uncertainty or possibility that something will not happen in the present. Remember, this pattern is very useful for talking about potential actions that are unlikely or not expected to occur. Now let's take a closer look at the structure. He might have gone to the work. This is an example of expressing possibility in the past. The key parts here are the modal verb might, which indicates possibility or uncertainty, and the past participle gone, which shows that the action happened in the past. In this structure, might is used to suggest that it's not certain whether he went to work, but it's a possibility. The phrase, have gone, is essential because it tells us that we're talking about something that potentially occurred before now. This form is very useful when we want to express speculation about past events. Remember, the structure follows the pattern: subject plus modal verb plus have plus past participle. Understanding this helps us convey uncertainty about past actions clearly and accurately, which is important in both everyday conversations and more formal contexts. It also connects to the overall theme of using modal verbs to express different shades of meaning, like possibility, necessity, or permission, especially when talking about past events. Now let's look at how we express negation in the past using this structure. The key point here is that we use have not or the contraction haven't followed by the past participle. For example, he might not have gone to work. This shows that it's possible he didn't go, but we're not certain. The structure here is he might not have plus the past participle, which is gone in this case. Remember, we include the modal verb might to indicate possibility, and then not to negate it, followed by have, and the past participle. This form is very useful when discussing actions that possibly did not happen in the past. It's a common way to express uncertainty or negation about past events in English. So, let's start with broke into. This phrase is often used to describe someone entering a place illegally or suddenly making a breakthrough. It highlights a moment of change or intrusion. Moving on to had never seen, which emphasizes experiences or sights that someone hadn't encountered before, reminding us how unfamiliarity can shape our perspectives. Then, had already taken refers to actions completed before a certain point, showing how prior experiences influence current situations. When I say arrived, I mean reaching a destination, marking the completion of a journey or a significant milestone. Went simply describes the act of traveling somewhere, often more casual or ongoing. Had never traveled again emphasizes a lack of previous experience in exploring new places, which can sometimes make the journey more exciting or intimidating. Next, appeared signals something suddenly becoming visible or emerging, which can symbolize new opportunities or revelations. Had been indicates a state of existence or experience up to a certain point, often reflecting a period of time that shaped someone's perspective. Had stopped suggests an interruption or pause, which can be pivotal moments in a story or process. Then, arrived appears again, emphasizing the importance of reaching a destination or goal. Had seen highlights past observations that influence how we interpret the present. Finally, felt describes an emotional or physical sensation, reminding us that experiences are not just external but also internal, shaping how we connect with the world around us. Overall, these phrases illustrate different stages and nuances of experience, whether it's entering new spaces, reflecting on past journeys, or experiencing emotions, all of which are central to understanding personal growth and exploration. So, when it comes to expectations, it must be clear that setting realistic goals is essential for success. We must remember that progress often takes time and consistent effort. Sometimes, it might feel like we're not moving fast enough, but that's okay. Patience is key. It must also be acknowledged that setbacks can happen. They are a natural part of the process and shouldn't discourage us. However, we can't afford to be complacent or lose focus on our objectives. We can't let obstacles derail our motivation or derail our plans. Overall, understanding these points helps us stay grounded and committed, even when challenges arise, reinforcing the importance of perseverance and adaptability in achieving our goals. Let's take a moment to look at this final slide. Here, we see the words might, must, and can't repeated twice, followed by activits. These words are key to understanding how we approach different tasks and responsibilities. Might suggests possibility, something we could do, but it's not certain. For example, we might consider trying a new strategy or exploring alternative options. Must, on the other hand, indicates obligation or necessity. These are the actions we are required to take, the non-negotiables that keep us moving forward and ensure accountability. Then we have can't, which clearly points to actions that are not possible or permitted within our current framework. Recognizing these boundaries helps us stay focused and avoid wasting effort on infeasible options. Connecting this to the overall theme, these words help us categorize activities based on their importance and feasibility. By understanding what we might do, what we must do, and what we can't do, we can make smarter decisions, prioritize effectively, and stay aligned with our objectives. This slide reminds us that clear communication about possibilities, obligations, and limitations is essential for successful teamwork and project management.